right, next up we have Matteo Lai, CEO of Empatica, who will be talking about a digital biomarkers journey from concept to reimbursement in CNS. Steps and tips from Empatica.
Thank you. We could have called it a survival story, actually, but maybe for next time. Thank you. Nice to see you all. Thank you for having us here. So what I wanted to talk about today is a bit different from our usual work that we present doing with large pharma companies working on supporting clinical trials. It's more of the journey in the commercial space of a digital biomarker and what happens after that. So we look at the story and we'll try to see sort of some tips maybe that are helpful for other people in thinking about this. And by journey, specifically for the development, that's how we look at it at the company. I'm assuming you know what Empatica does, but if not, we basically develop algorithms and medical devices to monitor patients in various places. And the way we look at it, we have three internal phases. One, we call it zero to paper, which is the development. So you're trying to see if you can actually monitor something in patient's life that is not detected well or not satisfactorily otherwise, and so you're trying to see if something works. The second phase we call finalization is a bit more professional. We call it paper to product, meaning that you've actually been able, you started when you're been able to publish something about this monitoring, but you want to bring it into a product that can be delivered to patients, which is a very different job, even just on the algorithm and the data science side, than just looking at sort of initial development. And then after that, you can hear me well, right? Yeah, okay, cool. After that, you probably, hopefully, get a regulatory clearance, and you can actually provide this product to patients or hospitals in different places. And after that, of course, you have the process of optimization, because unlike a clinical trial that's limited in size, you start to gather a lot of data, as we saw also this morning from Chris at ECHO. And this product specifically that I want to talk to you about was one of the first ones that we developed on epilepsy. And that's an example. I mean, Chris from actually Connexa was talking about it this morning. You really don't have a good option for epilepsy patients to be monitored outside of the hospital. You have video EEG at the hospital, otherwise you have diaries. And so that makes it very difficult to understand if drugs are working in real life and also to run no trials. And systems today are not continuous, they're not passive, and they don't have real-time analytics. And so that's something we wanted to solve as a company for an additional reason beyond the usual data science goals, and is that in epilepsy you have a condition known as SUDEP, sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. 1 every 1,000 patients suffering from this condition dies every year. Actually, by computing the years of potential life lost in neurology, is the second cause of death after stroke. And because it's underreported, some people believe is the first one, actually. And so there was an additional motivation in making sure that you could have an algorithm that could have accurate detection in real time and providing an alert to patient. And so that's what we went and do. So it took us about, I think, 4 years, give or take, to get it to the final stage. And you can see here on the y-axis we have the sensitivity of the algorithm, and then the false alarm rate, which is what FDA uses to look at the performance. And over time, we were able to basically decrease the false alarm rate, which of course would be a nuisance for patients in daily life, to a very low number. And that is true for the online algorithm. So you have an algorithm running on the device continuously, but the same algorithm running on the cloud with many thousands of hours from the same patients, actually you reduce the false alert now to 0. This is not updated, but that's what we have today, which is very useful for diagnostics, which is what clinicians rely on, because they don't want to review false alert. And so we got this algorithm approved. It was actually the first one approved by FDA Neurology using machine learning before they were more open to the idea. So we won't go into the drama there, but we can talk about it afterwards if you want. And that was the first product that the algorithm went into. It's called Embrace. Then there was a new generation called Embrace 2, and it's the only product available to patients today, really, and of course a lot of families, as you can imagine, because a lot of pediatric population, half of our clients are pediatric patients, they rely on it every day for peace of mind. And I'll explain in more detail what it does, but at least you have a context on what the product is trying to do. And that's critical because usually when we look at an algorithm, the context of use is very important. And in this case, our primary goal was a life-saving intervention so that caregivers could intervene. It turns out that with SUDAP, when patients are supervised, the rates go way down. So the idea was you provide a real-time alert to caregivers, and then they can intervene and check their loved ones and revive them if necessary. But that's not the only goal that we had for the product. We also wanted it to be used for diagnostics and monitoring because really clinicians don't have an idea on how good drugs are working, or at least they rely on patients' diaries on a monthly basis to look at those data. And we know from running trials, I mean, there's a lot of people more expert than me on that in this room, that sometimes those are not very accurate. So we wanted to be able to use the same algorithm, both for monitoring by clinicians, but also to run clinical trials, which share the same problem as clinicians do in daily clinical care. And so this was 2018, 2020. We now go to 2024 when we transition the entire product to our new device, the Embrace Plus, which some of you use in trials routinely. And so we transitioned the entirety of the software to our new platform for remote patient monitoring, because initially the product only delivered the alerts to patients, but we didn't have an infrastructure so the clinicians could review the data, provide recommendations, look at titration of drugs. And also we wanted to be able to monitor data in real time. And what this product does in a few steps, of course you have the alert, the most critical one. So the algorithm runs in real time continuously. We send an alert through an automatic phone call and text message to caregivers so that they can intervene. Patients can also review their data. So we have a mix of, I would say, a fitness tracker and a EPRO, but for medical use, that shows the automatic data from physiology detected from the patients. This is all FDA cleared endpoints, so it's not like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch. Patients also have a seizure diary, which is what they were able to use before, and they can annotate events and look at how potential triggers might affect their events. The last part is that they have an automatic report, which they can share to clinicians, and the clinicians then has an online dashboard where they can review it and use it for clinical decision-making. Now, the interesting part, so we're now at the, let's say, launch of the product. The next step is now you have a lot of data. You can look at what can be done after that. And the number two most popular question from patients is, can you do forecasting? And now we have more data than anybody has ever had. And so we started looking at a large-scale analysis to try to be, with the ultimate goal of personalizing AI-based models to do forecasting for patients. And so we started looking at sleep patterns. So you see here we did a study on 3,000 patients that were monitored for years continuously. And we look at 137K seizure events. And so we were able to demonstrate that you have frequency, you can identify circadian patterns into seizure occurrence, which has always been demonstrated on much smaller studies, but also believe that sleep disruption might affect the occurrence of seizure. And so that is demonstrated also in this large-scale cohort. So now we'll go away from the beautiful world of data science, and we go into how do you actually deliver this product. And remember, we have 3 use cases. We have alerting, so a direct-to-consumer product, diagnostics, and pharma. So for diagnostics and pharma, it's pretty easy because we ship devices. They told us how many they want, and then either sites or hospitals have their patients. They come in, they enroll them, and it's a remote patient monitoring product at that point. Of course, for sites, they get enrolled in a clinical trials, and sponsors, CROs, or the sites themselves monitor what's going on. The alerting case is a bit more difficult because you have to deliver it direct to patients. So we have a device and an app that the patient pays out of pocket for the device, and then has a subscription for the service that's paid monthly. And to do that, we had to, I'm running out of time, so that I'm usually much better at timing. But we basically had to become an online pharmacy in 50 states to be able to deliver this product. And patients also have to deliver as a prescription. So we did survive all of this, and we got 50,000 patients later to reimbursement. And we'll just focus quickly on the US. I know you're getting excited about what else is required after all of this work, but you also have to become business associate to hospitals, being HIPAA compliant, also enroll in Medicare and in Medicaid to do that. And because of that, you have to go through steps of, say, financial compliance and process compliance that's on top of what Pharma requires and what FDA requires. So we did it as well. We'll skip this, but we'll go to one quick example, because after delivering this product, you also have to add 3 additional steps to make sure the patient can get the product reimbursed. You have to verify eligibility, which can be done in real time. You have to get prior authorization. I'm sure all of you as patients are aware of this as well. And that takes a bit more time. And then you have to actually submit the claim. And these steps are not done instantaneously. So you either have someone that manually does it, which I wouldn't recommend for like the risks of unintentional fraud, or you have to automate them. And you have to automate them, be sure that there's not going to be any mistakes. So it's been an interesting journey. We're still here after that. And I would say the main finding so far is that it's really important to think about what your user wants, but also not only in the design process, but also while you deliver the product. So the product changes after you've gone through this experience, and you have to keep listening. It's not enough to get a product approved or even a product reimbursed if then people have a struggle using it. The other challenge, of course, is that in our case, we have to cater to multiple users. And I would like to say that the opinions of parents with a young kid with epilepsy and sponsors in a pharma company are aligned, but they're not, as you can imagine. User one is like, show me all the data right now, is please don't show me any data until it's done. But it's a bit of a course in that sense, but it's a blessing if you're able to not going crazy, and if you're able to make it, the product becomes very sophisticated. But at the end of the day, the part is really meaningful is that regardless of who's using this product, families, clinicians, or sponsors, at the end of the day, these algorithms, they're to be used by people. In this specific case, you can see they used to have a life-saving use in some cases, but even to advance the lack of effective drugs for many of them. And so I think it's a similar responsibility to what drug companies have. And so we're here to try to take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matteo. And we do have time for...
It says 11:30, by the way.
Yes, we do have time for one question, though, because you started a couple minutes late. So if anyone wants one question, Alexandra?
Just a quick one. Thanks for the presentation. In terms of data sharing with the patient throughout clinical trials, what have you been experienced so far?
That's a wonderful question that would take us a long time. I would say generally sponsors want as little data as possible to be shared with the patients, whereas when we sell to the patients, it's their data. We're like custodians for the data. So we give all of the data that is that's available. We're also running a forecasting study that I mentioned using a personalized model on the patients that have bought the device. And so they basically have a set of data that's coming from the regulated use by FDA, and then an online clinical trial where they get the data from a forecasting model when we're able to build it, but all of that is shared with them, and they can also get the data and share them with the clinicians. And the same data is available to the clinicians in the context of monitoring, is like as an Holter monitor. Basically, all of the data is available. The problem there is that since it goes to the hospital, you know, the constraints that there are with like interoperability and access of medical records, which sometimes go beyond our control because we put them there, but then it's difficult to take them out. But if they get the device from us, they have everything that's available.
Great, thank you, Matteo.